Hello. Okay, so this is the first time I've ever done a live on YouTube. So let me know if you can hear me. If you're here, say hi. Let me know where you're from. Today, I want to show you all how to make sugar cookie dough. Just the decorative you roll out. I have a previous video on my YouTube channel, but it's more like a fast forwarded video where I'm just kind of talking over and narrating. And I went back and looked at it, and the lighting's kind of rough. And so I thought it would be fun to do a live since cookie season is here. Fall Christmas cookies are insane. You could probably use this a lot. So I've got my little recipe ready to go. Like I said, feel free to comment below, and I'll check every couple minutes. If you have a question, I'll be glad to answer it live for you. So what we're going to do, I've got a 6-quart KitchenAid mixer. Whatever brand you're comfortable with is perfect, but a 6-quart, because this is a large batch, a large recipe, you don't have to make this much dough. You could easily cut this in half and it'd be perfect. So in my 6-quart bowl, I have a paddle attachment. Do not use a whisk. Do not use the dough hook. The paddle is what you're going to want. And first you're going to start with 4 sticks of unsalted softened butter. You don't want it melted, but you want it really soft and room temperature. So you're going to dump that all into your mixer. If you have extra butter on your spatula, make sure that you scrape that off in your bowl or against the blade. Then you're going to put in 3 cups of granulated sugar. You're going to dump that in. All at once is fine. You're going to lift your bowl, and I'm going to start with it on the lowest setting, which is stir for my mixer, but then I'm going to bump it up because you're going to want to beat this for a couple of minutes, a minute and a half, until it is kind of a pale color and a little bit fluffy. So if you can hear me, on my mixer, this is the number 4 setting on the KitchenAid 6-quart. Let me know if you have any questions, or if you're here, say hi. I don't see anything yet. Let's see. Almost there. It's getting nice and pale in color. I'm going to bump it up one more notch. Okay, I think we're there. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. See how it's nice and fluffy and pale in color, like it doesn't have that super yellow look from the butter anymore. That's what you want. So I'm going to reattach that. And I'm going to scrape my bowl down. This is so important. No matter what you're making, scraping the bowl down, whether it's cake or cookies, is really, really important. And really make sure you get underneath the paddle attachment, because you'll find that a lot of dry ingredients can get caught under there. Okay, now I'm going to add my eggs. I've got 4 whole eggs, and I'm just going to add them one at a time. I'm going to do like a low setting, so number 2 on my mixer, which is right above stir. And you don't have to beat this for several minutes like you did the sugar and butter. You just want to make sure the eggs are incorporated. And it's also important to crack your eggs in a bowl instead of cracking them and putting them directly in your mixing bowl, because you could have shells or just a bad egg, and you don't want that to ruin the entire cookie dough. So I break them separately into a small bowl and then add them to my cookie dough. Okay, I'm gonna let that stir for just a few seconds until that last egg is completely incorporated, and then I'm going to scrape the bowl down again. All right, we're good. So drop that down, scrape again. Okay, now I'm gonna add my vanilla extract. And it's up to you whether you use pure vanilla or imitation. I'll leave it up to you. Since these are being baked, it's not gonna be as super important. If you were making icing or something that was not going to be baked, like candy, I would definitely recommend using pure vanilla extract. For when you're doing a baked good, I'll leave that up to you. But I've got 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, so I'm gonna dump that in. And then this time I am going to turn it back up to the 4th or 6th setting on my mixer, number 4, number 6 on the speed. And I'm going to let it beat again until it gets a little bit more volume, so it fluffs up a little bit more. All right, let's check it and see what we have. So it looks pretty fluffy. It's got some more air that's been beaten into it. I'm going to let it go just maybe 10 more seconds, and then we'll start incorporating our sour cream, because that's what makes these cookies so good. Okay, so now we're going to add in a 1/2 cup of sour cream, and you want full fat. You don't want low fat or no fat or whatever. You want the real stuff, because you need that in your baked goods. So I've got 1/2 cup of sour cream. Make sure I get all of that out there. Now this we're just incorporating. We're not going to beat it again for several minutes. This just a few seconds until it is completely incorporated. Okay, looks good. Again, scrape your bowl down. I know it seems like a lot, but it really does make a difference. You don't want to get to the end of this bowl to get your dough out and have a bunch of flour and sugar stuck to the bottom. Okay, so now that we have all of our wet ingredients in plus our sugar, I'm going to give it one quick turn. I like to do that so I don't want the bare bowl where I just scraped it to be exposed to the flour because it'll stick to the bottom. That's why I give it a couple turns. Okay, so in this bowl, I have 6 cups of all-purpose flour, whatever brand you choose to use, just not self-rising, and 1 teaspoon of salt. That's why I use the unsalted butter because I want to be able to control the amount of salt in my recipes. So I'm going to drop this down and I'm just going to sprinkle in about 1/4 at a time. You can also use a measuring cup to do this if you're more comfortable doing it that way. The key is to never mix it on a high speed when you are adding flour or powdered sugar because it will puff out at you and make a big cloud and go all over your counter. So you still might see a little bit spill out just with the amount that I put in there just now. So this is going to be on the lowest setting, which is stir on the KitchenAid mixer. And you're just going to let that stir until you don't see the flour on the sides of the bowl anymore. And then you're going to add another portion of the flour. Okay. Drop it back down. More flour. And on cookie dough, when you're adding your flour, or if it's even chocolate chip cookie dough and you're adding your chocolate chips and all that, you really don't want to over mix it. You just want to make sure in the beginning of your recipe that you're really beating the butter and sugar together, but everything else is pretty much just getting incorporated. Okay. Now, before I add this last installment of the flour, I'm actually going to scrape my bowl down. Okay. Now that'll be hard to scrape down once I have all the flour incorporated. So what you'll see me do is I won't be able to scrape it down while it's still attached to my mixer once I get all this in here, but I will stir it by hand a few turns before I put it on the plastic wrap to store in the refrigerator. Okay, so here's the last bit of the flour. Turn it back on. Should knock some of this down, this dough. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to turn it up just a notch, just for a few seconds, to make sure all that flour is really incorporated into the dough. And that's it. So now I'm going to remove it from the stand mixer. Now it's really nice and thick, but it's still a little too thin to roll out right away. You are going to have to refrigerate this dough so it can fully set up before you use it. Now, if you're not cutting out a lot of really intricate shapes and you really just are making these to eat and don't really care about a super decorative or precise cookie, you could add a little bit of baking soda or baking powder, but because I want these to really hold shape when I cut these out, because they're going to be decorative cookies, then I don't add those. I just make them as is. Okay. So that's that. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to stir this a little bit with my spatula to really make sure everything's incorporated. And you do have to kind of use some muscle to get to the bottom of that bowl. Okay, so let me see if I can show you kind of what you're dealing with. So it's nice and thick. It doesn't fall off the spatula. It's really good and creamy. So I'm going to move my mixer out of the way. I'm going to wrap it in plastic wrap. So I'm going to wrap it in thirds. So I'm going to lay out some plastic. Scoop out, I'm not going to be super precise, but scoop out roughly a third of my dough. And then I'm going to wrap this up. Make sure it's good and airtight. And I'm going to do that twice more. And if you wanted to make this ahead of time, you could totally do that. Like I said, you have to make it a little bit ahead so it can actually sit up in a refrigerator. But you can also make this a few days ahead if you wanted to. I usually make it the night before and then bake it and roll it out the next day. If you're in a jam and you need it quicker than that, you can just put it in your refrigerator for roughly 3 hours, but definitely don't do any less than that. All right, here's the last of it. Okay. So those are my 3 sections of sugar cookie dough. They're all wrapped tightly in plastic wrap. So what I'll do is now here, my time, it is 5:00 p.m. So I'm going to just put these in the refrigerator overnight. In the morning, first thing, I will roll them out and bake them. And then let them cool and then immediately decorate them. So another thing I would recommend is when you go to roll these out tomorrow, or then when you go to decorate them and bake them, to roll them out, obviously roll them out in flour. And it's when it first comes out of the refrigerator, it's nice and cold, and you want that. You want to roll this out immediately from the refrigerator. Do not let the dough come back to room temperature, or it will be too soft to handle. So you're going to knead it in a little bit of flour to get it manageable, and then immediately roll it out. It's actually easier to work with the colder it is. So I would recommend cutting those out on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Then put the parchment paper lined baking sheet with the cookies on it back in your refrigerator if you have room, and let them sit in the fridge for about 20 minutes while your oven is preheating. Then bake them. They'll hold shape better that way because they'll be nice and cold when they go in the oven. And I usually bake mine at 325 on a convection setting. But even if you're not using convection, 325 is fine. And it'll depend on the size of the cookie or how thick you roll them out. I've got a couple of videos on here. One specifically where I show you rolling it. I show you how I roll it out. And then I show you the baking process, like how long they're in the oven. So please feel free to watch that and let me know if that's helpful to you. Hi. I'm so glad you're here. Glad you're watching. So I would say if you were making this full batch, the 6 cups of flour, 3 cups of granulated sugar recipe, you're going to get about 4 dozen cookies out of this. Now that's me rolling them out. Mine are a little thick. You don't have to roll them out that thick if you don't want to. Just be careful not to overcook them. Let me show you one that I've done. Okay, so this is a slice of pumpkin pie. Very cute. But if you can see roughly how thick that is. So that's what I like. It's still soft on the bottom, that I can kind of press the bottom. It's nice and soft. On the top, it's decorated now so you can't see. But when they come out of the oven, they'll get not brown, but just a barely bit of a golden yellow around the edging. That's when it's done. And then I leave it on the hot cookie sheet for about 10 to 15 minutes to cool all the way before I transfer them onto a cooling rack and then decorate them later. So I hope that that is helpful. I just use a very basic meringue powder based royal icing to decorate these. It's just meringue powder, powdered sugar, water, and clear vanilla extract, or whatever flavoring you wanted to add. It's very simple. And if you enjoy these videos and you need help in cookie decorating or cake decorating or baking, let me know. I've got lots of videos on here you can check out. I'm also hosting a cookie decorating class virtually next week on Monday evening. And we'll be I'm sending you all of the cookie dough recipes and the royal icing recipe with links of tutorials to watch and links to all of the cookie cutters that I'm going to be using and the piping bags that I'm going to be using. So if you're interested in joining me for that virtual class, you can comment here. You can email me. I'll make sure my email is in the comment section so you can look back at that. But that's going to be Monday, this coming Monday, November 2nd. So if you're interested, anybody can join. It's all virtual. I'll send you all the information. You can actually decorate along with me, or you can just watch the video. I'll send you the recorded version as well, and you could do it at another time. So let me know if you're interested. This is cookie season, so this is a great thing to start with. I also have a program called Cake in Real Life, where we do a lot of cake decorating, baking, business building. I have a few clients I'm working with now, and I'm helping them to learn how to decorate cakes, but also how to build their at-home business and use social media and no money for advertising. So glad that you all could join me. I hope this was helpful in some way. Comment below, let me know if it was. If it was, then I'm going to do more live videos like this. If you all find this helpful, where it's not just the fast-forwarded videos over and over again. I don't mind doing this. This actually is a little easier because I don't have to go back and edit. I'm not a big fan of editing videos. But thanks again for joining me. Be sure to check out my other videos where you see me bake and decorate these cookies. And I'll talk to you soon.